The morning light spilled softly across the skyline of New York as Victoria Sterling stood in her penthouse, staring at the wedding invitation that had refused to leave her thoughts. Jonathan Marcus, the man she once planned to marry, was tying the knot with his personal assistant. The media called it the wedding of the decade. To Victoria, it felt more like a headline about heartbreak. At 36, she had everything people dreamt of: success, wealth, and influence. Her PR empire, Sterling Communications, was the talk of the industry. Yet, holding that creamy white envelope in her hand, she didn't feel powerful. She felt like the 25-year-old woman who had once believed in forever with the wrong man. Her assistant's voice echoed in her head. "You have to go, Victoria. If you don't, people will assume you're bitter. The press will devour it." And she was right. In Victoria's world, appearances weren't just important, they were everything. So, she decided she wouldn't just attend. She would walk into that wedding radiant, poised, and untouchable. All she needed was someone extraordinary by her side. That's when she remembered Michael Rodriguez. They had met by chance 3 weeks earlier. Her car had broken down in a modest neighborhood after a charity meeting. While waiting for her driver, she'd noticed a man teaching his little daughter to ride a bike in the park. The girl, maybe 6, had fallen more than once. Each time, he knelt beside her, checked her scraped knees, and said with gentle certainty, "It's okay, Isabella. We fall so we can learn to fly." Something about that moment had struck Victoria deeply. Later, she learned his story, a former architect who had left his high-paying job to raise his daughter after his wife walked away. He did whatever work he could find: construction, tutoring, repairs, anything to build a life filled with love instead of regret. 3 weeks later, in a moment of bold desperation, Victoria called him. "I have an unusual request," she said carefully. "I need a date for a wedding. It's purely professional, and I'll compensate you for your time." There was a long pause. "Miss Sterling," Michael said finally, "I don't think we live in the same world." "That's exactly why this could work," she replied. He agreed, reluctantly, after she offered enough to cover his daughter's daycare for months. When he arrived at her apartment the night of the wedding, Victoria could hardly recognize him. Gone were the worn jeans and work boots, replaced by a tailored tuxedo that turned heads the moment he stepped in. "You look beautiful," he said, his tone simple, sincere, and disarming. As their car approached the Grand Thornfield estate, Victoria's heart tightened. This was his world, her ex's world, of crystal chandeliers, whispered gossip, and judgment wrapped in designer labels. "Remember," she murmured, touching up her lipstick, "we've been dating for a few months. You're in construction management, keep it vague." But as they entered, it wasn't Michael who seemed out of place, it was everyone else. He carried himself with quiet confidence, the kind that didn't need approval. When Jonathan and his young bride approached, Victoria felt the chill of old wounds reopen. "Victoria," Jonathan said, oozing false warmth. "So good to see you. And who's this?" "This is Michael Rodriguez," she replied smoothly. "He builds things that last." Jonathan's smile faltered, and for once, Victoria didn't feel small. Later, when Jonathan made a cruel remark meant to sting, Michael stood tall, his voice calm but steady. "Some people forget, the strongest foundations are built on respect." The words silenced the table. As he led her to the dance floor, Victoria whispered, "I'm sorry you had to hear that." "Don't be," he said gently. "He doesn't define your worth." Under the chandeliers, they danced to people from different worlds, moving as if they belonged in the same one. She asked how he'd learned to dance, and he smiled. "My daughter insisted. She says, a real gentleman knows how to make others feel seen." That night, on the terrace beneath twinkling fairy lights, Victoria opened up for the first time in years. She spoke about betrayal, loneliness, and the emptiness success couldn't fill. And Michael listened, really listened. When she asked him how he'd learned to trust again, he said softly, "I realized my ex leaving wasn't a reflection of my worth. Sometimes people's choices are just their own limitations. But love doesn't vanish. It just learns where it's safe to land." Those words cracked something open in her, the anger, the armor, the endless need to appear unshakable. "Why did you agree to come tonight?" she asked quietly. Michael hesitated before replying. "Because I saw who you really are, the woman who stayed late at a community center, listening to children talk about their dreams, the one who helped a boy clean up spilled juice instead of scolding him. I thought maybe someone like that deserved to be seen, too." Her voice trembled. "And what do you see now? Someone learning how to let go, and how to love again." By the end of the night, Victoria knew she hadn't hired a stranger to protect her image. She had met someone who helped her rediscover her heart. 6 months later, she returned to that same community center, not as a guest, but as a volunteer. Isabella was at her side, giggling as they read stories to a group of children. And Michael, now leading a home repair workshop, looked at her with the same quiet pride he had that night on the dance floor. The wedding invitation that once symbolized pain was now tucked away in a memory box, not as a reminder of heartbreak, but as proof that sometimes, life's most beautiful beginnings are disguised as endings, because healing doesn't always come from avoiding the places that hurt us. Sometimes it comes from returning with someone who helps us see them differently. And that is the kind of love story we celebrate here on Whispers of Kindness, where every ending has the power to become a beginning.